I didn't tell them, and I want to share with you, and I have the same problem you have, so I'm going to go off script. Because that conversation that I had with the library director made me think about my own experience with libraries at a very early age. Because it's been noted, I'm a third generation migrant worker. That is, my grandfather came to across the border in 1906. Water had been found in South Central Texas, or that is a region between and San Antonio, Texas, and artesian water. And Mexicans were being recruited, and he came as a sharecropper. In other words, they weren't paid. His payment was a bounty. Whatever they harvested, they shared with the land speculators there. Well, after several decades, he thought he had finally been established until the Great Depression came and dislocated all those sharecroppers, land speculators, etc. And that started his migrant work. And before he passed, he showed my grandfather how to get to the Great Lakes region. And he told him, he said, you go up there and they say that beyond Milwaukee, don't stop in Milwaukee or Chicago, he said, beyond there, they say that there's very fertile land. And of course, he was talking about west of the Kettle Moraine area where my father first came. And he said, but stay away from factories and mines. My granddad had worked in the mines in the state of Coahuila, and you think working in factories and mines now is a perilous job. At that time, it was certainly more than that. But my dad came here in 1942, and the war intervened, and he couldn't come up north anymore. But we joined him in the 1950s, and for the next 10 years, journeyed between South Central Texas and Wisconsin. Well, in one of those trips that we made to Henry, Illinois, where we harvested asparagus, my brother Manuel, my oldest brother, saw a library, and he says, "Jesus, let's go in there and see they'll let us take some books out." I says, "Oh my God, we don't even have an address. We lived in the labor camp. There was no address to the labor camp. It was just out in the middle of nowhere by the asparagus field." And he says, no, come on, let's just go in there. It says that you can, anybody can rent a book. But anyway, to make a long story short, the librarian befriended my brother Manuel and allowed us to take books to the labor camp, even though we didn't have an address. Well, from then on, in every place that we went, where we were harvesting tomatoes, where we were harvesting cucumbers, we were harvesting asparagus, he would go to the library. And he learned the Dewey Decimal System. Of course, I was several years younger than he. And he would start a historical novel, wouldn't finish it because, we'd have to move on to the next crop. He'd go directly to the place that he knew where that was, pick up that doggone book and continue the reading, and we thought that was magic. We thought that was the most wonderful thing. And he was a storyteller. He was a storyteller in our labor camps, and he taught us all how to read. Not that reading the words, but I mean the loving of learning how to read. So I thought I'd tell you that story, Mike, because what happened is when we relocated, he became a librarian here in the Milwaukee public school system after organizing farm workers with us for 4 or 5 years. And my daughter, Alejandra, never survived that. She's been volunteered to work at the Bayview High School library, and then worked as an LTE, and at 17 years old, when she graduated from high school, she started working as a limited term employee. Well, that's 25 years ago she spent. So we're several generations committed to libraries. I encourage all of you to have that same commitment to libraries, to research. Study in this place. Come here and enjoy, because then you'll start foraging around and you'll start experimenting and identifying things that you never have experienced before. And it's a lifetime experience that you'll have. Sorry to go off script. That doesn't count, Alberto, in the amount of time that we said. That was just a remark with an ongoing conversation.
I didn't bring a watch.
That I started with Mike. But anyway, I appreciate your contribution to the Latino archives, and Heidi, to you especially. I've been visiting with you and some of your work study students and other staff members done this. I'm not going to talk directly about the events that you're seeing here, because the library has done such a wonderful job. They begin with the documents that we initiate with the negotiations between the Chancellor's office and the community CELA, the Council of Education for Latin Americans. And it's a history is there, it's chronologically established. You can see letters being sent, negotiating statements on behalf of our community, the response by the Chancellor's office, up until several months later, the negotiations break down. And that's where we come in, okay? The other thing that I think some of you know, well, how do you get hundreds of people here to come up? Because these were daily events. These events are going on. Well, CELA was a concilio, okay? It was a concilio educacional. At that time, what's going on in the community is the Latinization of the social service agencies, beginning with UMass. We took over UMass, reorganized it, and made it an advocate for migrant workers rather than just a social service agency. Father Maurice resigned from the Archdiocese funded at Centro Hispano, and he made sure that a Latino followed him. We insisted that the CAP agency, the Social Development Commission, open up an employment and training office, and they opened one on 5th and National. The Christian Center, in addition to the Archdiocese work, established a spot, or that is a alternative educational program for youth, and that was a precursor to what we now know as the United Community Center. And then, of course, there is Ernesto Chacon and Roberto Hernandez, who found the Latin American Union for Civil Rights. For some of us that came from South Central Texas and were involved in the political revolt that Patricia mentioned, the franchise and the Voting Rights Act, etc., identified ourselves as Chicano. But one of the geniuses about Alberto Hernandez and Ernesto Chacon in establishing the organization that would lead us in these activities, that's a Latin American Union for Civil Rights. So they were appealing to the diversity of what was now a new community here in the city of Milwaukee. It wasn't about Mexicanos, it wasn't about Chicanos, it was about Boricuas, it was about Chicanos, and it was about people coming from the Caribbean, from Central America, etc., etc. So the same thing with CELA. CELA, it wasn't humans that organized it. It wasn't the Spanish, it wasn't SED, it wasn't the Latin American, it was this concilio who came together, all right? And that's how you see this organized Latino community, and it was a youth movement, and it was a feminist movement. You see a lot of young ladies, and you know, Professor Nájera is wearing a shirt with Dolores Huerta in the image, and I made some remarks a number of years ago about the role of Dolores Huerta and in the farm workers movement, because I had been organizing farm workers before I came here to Milwaukee. And one of the things that I never understood why she didn't get the recognition, I'm sure the most extraordinary person I ever met in my life was Cesar Chavez. I'm not taking anything away from him. But the workforce during my generation as a migrant worker and the generation that we were organizing was family-based. It was about women and children working in the fields. You cannot organize those workers without women organizers. It's inconceivable to me that we never could recognize the role of women, because Salas was never organized. She was never organized family. It hadn't been for organizers like the Golda. And that's why I'm so happy to see that. And today, it's a special day because today is a Latina Labor Day. I don't know, have you heard about that event? Well, today is the 22nd month of Latinas to be able to make up what a white male makes in a year. It takes us 22 months, or that is all of last year, all 12 months, and 10 months of this year to make the equivalent of the salaries that white male makes in this country. And I think that some of you who are here, whether you're male or female, it's going to take us generations to address that issue. But don't forget that that's one of the legacies of Dolores that we need to address. Whether you're a young man or a young woman, this is something that it's going to take all of us to put together to resolve. Because not even African American women, not even indigenous women, earn less than we do. We are the lowest paid workers in the United States. The other thing that you need to remember, so I'm very happy to see Dolores. The other thing that I want to mention about, I'm not going to say anything about what's already that Mike and Heidi have written But I'm just gonna address some of the issues that are not in the archive. The other thing that we need to remember is that negotiations broke down. As you'll see in the documents that Heidi and Mike have put together. And there are two major reasons why the negotiations break down, okay? One of them is the Outreach Institute, okay? We wanted the university to be in the barrio. Now, we are recognized here in the city of Milwaukee as one of the most segregated communities in the United States, okay? 50 years ago, it was even more stratified. You couldn't get Latinos to come over to the Gold Coast over here, all right? People from here didn't go over to the South Side. When we took over United Migrant Opportunity Services and made arrangements to have career and vocational programs at MATC, which is just down the street, so all you have to do is cross downtown. We couldn't get people to cross downtown because we had these psychological barriers. African Americans didn't come down the local street and go and enjoy their time in the summer by Bradford Beach. It was these barriers that we had. They were not just physical barriers like bridges, etc. They were also psychological bridges. We knew that we had no place here in this part of the community. So that was one of the things. We wanted the university over there because how far, this was like in another planet. Okay? The other thing is that that's not a very radical idea. You think having an outreach activity over there where we're going to recruit students, we're going to provide financial aid, we're going to provide counseling services. We've offered classes in the beginning part. You go to, I attended after I graduated here in 1971, I attended graduate school at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. There's the Wisconsin idea. What is the Wisconsin idea? That's the outreach I'm talking about. The Wisconsin idea is the boundaries of the university is the boundaries of the state of Wisconsin. The boundaries of this university is as far as that south side. And that's what we wanted the outreach, okay? The second idea was the selecting of Fernando, Dr. Fernandez, Ricardo Fernandez. We wanted him to be the first director. We wanted an advisory committee to guide his activities. That, you know, you don't tell the university who to hire, okay? You don't tell colleges and departments what faculty, whether you need them or not. They have their own system to do it, but those are the two things that separated us. And that's when we started that picketing. Armando Orellana and some of the negotiators for the Salas lost their relationship with the university, and it was we who directed then the activities that you see in here. And what was going on? Well, I have been organizing farm workers for over 4 years. We marched, we picketed, we went on strike, we had walkouts. I had never been arrested in my life. Come to Milwaukee, I couldn't stay out of jail, okay? Why? Well, it was the way police saw you, okay? African Americans when we came here in 1968, African Americans had been picketing 200 consecutive days for an open housing march. They wanted to break that apartheid. They wanted to break that segregation and be able to move to other neighborhoods and buy if they could afford to do so. And there was resistance to that. And there was a police that carried out the city of Milwaukee's orders, you know, to prevent that from going on. There were riots, the National Guard got called, buildings were burned, people were being killed. Not in these events. We were disciples of Gandhi, we were disciples of Cesar Chavez and Martin Luther King. You never saw a thing misplaced, you never saw a pencil stolen. Non-violent, peaceful demonstrations were our mode. That's the only way you could survive. You weren't going to do anything other than when the police would come in and say, over there, that one, and that one, you know, in the paddy wagon, let's go. And that's it. You didn't resist arrest because you knew what was good for you. So those are the two things. When we came here to Milwaukee, we learned something from the African American movement, direct action. Father Godwin would tell me, Jesus, you know, I love the way you do the informational picket, you know. You got these leaflets and you go over there and you tell people, don't buy grapes, support the California strike, write to the growers to negotiate with the farm workers, and don't shop here anymore if they don't buy grapes. But you know, you've been here already 2 months. And you know, the Coles food store, it hasn't changed his mind about what you're going to do. You have to do a little direct action. What do you mean, Father Brown? Well, why don't you go over there and try to stop the people from coming in? Go over and talk to them when they get off the car. Prevent them from coming in. Well, but make a long story short, by the time it was over, we were in the store with picket signs getting arrested as a result of direct action. And that's what the university was faced with. Once the negotiation broke down, it was our show. And we started the picketing, we started to have mass, we got Father Brown, we got Father Maurice, we got the Reverend Davida from the Christian Center to come over and have religious activities. We have civil disobedience, people got arrested. Your great-grandmother and I were thrown in jail for a sit-in. We camped out in front of Chapman Hall. We took a fast. Finally, one particular morning, when we were camping out in front of Chapman Hall, they had to allow us to use the bathroom. You know where Chapman Hall is? You go to, as you come in the main door, there's a bathroom there to the right? So as we were sleeping outside and camping, they allowed us to use the bathroom. There was a dark day 24 hours a day. One particular morning, we got up after about 7 days of camping, and we thought, hey, direct action is not going to work. They responded to it. We've been out here, we're on a fast, and we're still out here going to die of hunger. And we got up and to relieve ourselves in the bathroom, and I noticed the guard's gone. And the guard that's been assigned to come in hasn't showed up yet. I woke up the other protesters. They said, hey, the door's open to Chapman Hall. So make a long story short, we took over that on the phone. Before the campus police found out, there were several hundred of us, and that's a picture that you see. That's how the Spanish-speaking outreach institutes gets funded. The university administration doesn't like to admit it, but that's a true story. But anyway, we didn't wait until the university allowed us to come in to enroll in school. That semester and the first 3 semesters, we had over 150 students that were enrolled. And Hernandez opened up offices in the South Side. The Spanish Center allowed him to have offices there. We have some extraordinary leaders. There's 2 of them right here, Felipe and Alberto. They continue to do that. We have nearly 3,000 students here. Well, we face a couple of issues, and let's face what these issues are. Some of the students that are coming in from poor performing schools, and they need some remediation. We know that. Anybody that knows what the problems in our high schools are realizes that. We need to enhance our academic support services in this institution. If we want good retention rates, if we want our students to graduate on a timely basis, we need to get more academic support services. Secondly, we need additional staff, and we have done a very poor job of faculty. There's a lot of research in immigration, research in the diversity of our culture, in history, and this is not a good time. The Republican legislature has rejected Governor Evers' recommendation to expand the funding. Tuition is not increasing. There's lower amount of students that are coming in than a previous year. That means that there's less funds. So I know that we're going to have a hard time to be able to meet the needs even of the present students that we have here now. But we have to do it. We have to find a way, and we have to see. And Dolores Huerta said, and I'll close with that, we can do it. It's just a way that we can do it. Our students deserve it.
Thank you so much, Jesus and Dr. Patricia Najera, for those wonderful remarks. Jesus, I just have to say that every time I've called upon you, you've been there, and you continue to show up and really inspire us every time you speak and remind us of why we're here and the work that needs to continue to be done. So thank you so much for doing that all the time.